You raised your children to understand right from wrong. You believed in loyalty and family. Now ask yourself, how far would a powerful figure go to protect their legacy? Leaked photos from 2005 suggest that Donald Trump may have crossed a boundary America had not witnessed before. It all started on a crisp evening in Washington, D.C., at one of the city's most exclusive charity events. This was the kind of gathering where everyone knew each other, where politicians mingled with philanthropists, and cameras were positioned to capture every moment. It was meant to be a night of elegance, quiet discussions, and raising funds for important causes. But what happened was far from expected. Ivanka Trump arrived, impeccably dressed and confident as always. She spent the evening moving between tables, greeting familiar faces, and exchanging polite words. But behind her composed exterior, there was a clear purpose. She wasn't just attending the event. She had come to confront one of the most influential figures of the past 2 decades, Barack Obama. Though he had left office years earlier, his influence over American politics remained significant. And that evening, Ivanka had decided to challenge him directly. As she approached Obama, the atmosphere shifted. Guests turned their heads, whispering softly. Cameras that were meant to capture smiles and handshakes now had the potential to record a confrontation. Ivanka stopped before him, standing tall and confident. She ignored small talk, speaking with precision and intent. "You failed America," she said calmly but sharply. Her words cut through the background noise, leaving the room in stunned silence. It was not mere criticism. It was meant to provoke, challenge, and put Obama on the defensive. Guests shifted uneasily, waiting for his response. Ivanka pressed further, moving beyond policy to personal critique. "Your leadership weakened the country," she continued. "And your post-presidency activism seems more about staying relevant than making a difference." Every word was deliberate, intended to leave an impression. The room grew quieter, all eyes on the exchange. Some gasped. Others watched intently. Obama remained calm. He smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly, but said nothing. The tension lingered, unusual for a setting where a sharp reply might have been expected. He neither appeared angry nor flustered. He listened carefully, weighing the words before him. That silence carried power. It forced everyone to consider the accusation, while signaling that he would not respond impulsively. Ivanka, believing she had unsettled him, felt confident. Cameras captured her poised stance, the intensity in her gaze, and the firmness of her position. She anticipated a reaction, a quick retort that might lessen the impact of her words. But Obama stayed composed, revealing nothing. The tension remained, as whispers of speculation filled the room. Political analysts reviewing footage later described the moment as charged with anticipation, a collision of two worlds, the enduring influence of a former president and the rising prominence of a figure tied to the current administration. Every glance, every pause carried meaning. Ivanka represented boldness, making a public challenge to a widely respected figure in American history. Obama, on the other hand, showcased a different type of power: patience, restraint, and careful thought. The event continued, but the focus had shifted. A night intended for charity and formality had become a quiet face-off, a battle of words and influence. Guests watched with uncertainty, while cameras captured a story that would extend far beyond the evening. As Ivanka stepped back, expecting recognition, she realized attention had shifted to Obama, awaiting his response. Her precise and unapologetic words had invited scrutiny. The silence lingered like a challenge, a question of what would come next. By the evening's end, it was clear this encounter would be remembered. Ivanka had provoked a confrontation, yet the calm response, or lack thereof, set the stage for a larger, unexpected development. Her attempt to assert dominance against a former president had unintentionally opened the door for a more significant moment. A few days later, whispers in Washington, D.C. persisted. The charity event had not faded from memory, and no one anticipated the next twist, a revelation that would alter the narrative entirely. An anonymous source contacted Obama's team, claiming to provide proof of a story never before shared publicly. Initially, his team was cautious. Over time, they had learned that not every tip could be trusted. Still, the source insisted the evidence was genuine, and soon the proof arrived. Photographs from October 2005 never seen before. At first glance, the images seemed ordinary. A formal gathering, guests dressed elegantly, laughter frozen in time. But one figure drew attention: Ivanka Trump. In these photographs, she appeared visibly pregnant. The realization spread quietly, a ripple across those reviewing the images. The implications were clear and significant. A forensic team was called in to verify the photos. Metadata, camera type, lighting and angles were meticulously checked. No tampering was found. The images were authentic, captured privately years earlier, and had never been shared. Rarely does evidence align so perfectly with a claim that was once only speculation. Obama approached the situation carefully. He did not rush to release the photos or use them as a political tool. He recognized their potential impact, not just on the Trump family, but on how the charity confrontation would now be perceived. The photographs depicted Ivanka in formal attire, standing among other guests, yet the focus was unmistakably on her. Her posture, the subtle curve of her figure, and the way she carried herself indicated she was expecting. Private moments captured publicly now had the power to shift narratives completely. The implications were enormous. The images suggested a story kept hidden for years, prompting questions. Why was this never disclosed? Who knew? What did it mean for the Trump family's public story? Every question carried weight, and every answer could alter public perception. Obama acted deliberately. He consulted advisors, legal experts, and communication specialists, carefully framing the information to prioritize truth and transparency. Every step was measured, avoiding sensationalism while ensuring accountability. Washington insiders noticed the growing tension. Reporters who covered the charity event sensed the story was far from over. Politicians watched closely, aware that any revelation could shift public attention. Yet no confirmation came, only anticipation. Obama chose timing carefully. Too soon and it would seem vindictive. Too late and others could control the narrative. He relied on patience, letting facts speak for themselves, and preparing a presentation that could not be ignored. When the announcement came, it was precise. Obama addressed the situation directly, emphasizing transparency and accountability. He verified the authenticity of the photographs, the forensic checks, and the resulting questions, without personally attacking the Trump family. He asked for clarity and responses from them, letting the evidence speak while maintaining dignity. The effect was immediate. Public attention shifted. Conversations moved from policy and leadership to secrecy, family matters, and accountability. The charity confrontation had become a story about truth and public trust. Obama's measured approach contrasted sharply with Ivanka's earlier boldness. At the event, she aimed to unsettle and assert confidence. But her confrontation inadvertently created a moment for Obama to display calm authority and reasoned communication. Impulsive criticism had met deliberate, fact-based response. The verified photographs were undeniable. Dates, lighting, and metadata aligned perfectly. Yet the story suggested was extraordinary, challenging narratives long accepted by the public. Questions multiplied. Why the secrecy? Who coordinated the story? How had it remained hidden for so long? Obama refrained from answering every question himself. By presenting verified information while inviting clarification, he placed responsibility on the Trump family, reinforcing accountability without creating spectacle. The public reaction was intense. News outlets covered the story. Commentators debated its significance. Private family matters intersected with public perception, reshaping narratives in a profound way. Ivanka's confrontation at the charity event, once a display of bold confidence, now appeared in a different context. Her words, measured against verified revelations, highlighted the power of deliberate communication over impulsive confrontation. By week's end, Washington was abuzz. Discussions of policy and leadership shifted to secrecy, accountability, and public trust. The October 2005 photographs quietly changed the narrative, creating suspense and uncertainty. One thing was clear: a direct challenge to Barack Obama had triggered a far larger sequence of events than anyone could have imagined. When Obama addressed the nation, the public listened closely. Weeks had passed, yet the charity event remained in memory. Now, with verified evidence in hand, a new chapter began, one no one had foreseen. Obama spoke calmly, deliberately, and without accusation. "I have been provided information that raises serious questions about the Trump family story," he said. His words were simple, yet their implications were profound. He shared the core revelation. Ivanka Trump had become pregnant in late 2005, with Donald Trump reportedly the father. To protect their public image, the Trump family allegedly arranged for Melania Trump to claim the child as her own. In March 2006, Baron Trump was officially registered as Melania's son, with financial and loyalty arrangements reportedly made to maintain secrecy. Obama did not speculate about motives. He presented verified information, framing the situation as a matter of transparency and accountability. "If this information is false," he said, "provide proof. The public deserves clarity." The response was immediate and significant. What began as a private confrontation became a public matter, raising questions about honesty, secrecy, and trust. Obama's calm, fact-based approach highlighted a stark contrast to Ivanka's earlier confrontation: impulsive criticism met by deliberate reasoning. The verified photographs left little doubt of authenticity. Dates, lighting, and metadata all aligned. The story challenged long-held assumptions, prompting urgent questions about secrecy, coordination, and narrative control. Obama allowed the facts to speak while giving the Trump family the opportunity to respond, reinforcing accountability without spectacle. Public reaction was intense, with debates on family, secrecy, and public trust dominating conversations. The photographs and Obama's careful framing created tension impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the confrontation at the charity event was seen not merely as a bold act by Ivanka but as the start of a larger story, one that had been quietly unfolding behind the scenes for years. What stood out in Obama's handling of the situation was his ability to remain composed while sharing information that could easily have sparked chaos. There was no anger, no sensationalism, no attempt to humiliate anyone. Instead, he relied on verified evidence, clear communication, and a firm call for accountability. In doing so, he shifted the focus from personal confrontation to public clarity, creating a moment remembered for its calm authority and measured approach. The Trump family, by contrast, found themselves suddenly on the defensive. Ivanka's confidence at the charity event now seemed premature. Her public criticism, intended to provoke and unsettle, had opened the door to a revelation that placed her family under scrutiny. The private narratives and carefully managed public image that had remained hidden for years were now exposed to public questions, forcing the family into responses that would have been unimaginable before. As Obama concluded, he left the room and the nation with a simple but powerful reminder: truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully it may be hidden. By presenting verified information, demanding accountability, and avoiding personal attacks, he transformed a moment of personal confrontation into a lesson on responsibility, transparency, and measured communication. In the days that followed, photographs, timelines, and Obama's statements dominated public discussion. People revisited the charity event, reflecting on how a bold public attack had shifted into a situation neither Ivanka nor anyone else could have predicted. Obama's calm, factual presentation had changed the narrative, turning a simple confrontation into a moment of lasting significance. The story had expanded far beyond the initial encounter. What started as direct criticism now raised questions about secrecy, family narratives, and public responsibility. Obama had turned the situation into a call for truth and transparency, leaving both the public and the Trump family to face the consequences of decisions made years earlier. In doing so, he demonstrated a clear lesson. In moments of tension, measured facts and calm reasoning often speak louder than even the boldest words. The Trump family's response came quickly but did little to contain the growing storm. In the days following Obama's careful revelation, the nation was filled with questions. Verified photographs had drawn public attention in a way that could not be ignored. What had begun as a personal confrontation at a charity event had escalated into a situation involving family, politics, and the concept of transparency. Donald Trump addressed the public at one of his rallies. As usual, the crowd hung on his every word. He dismissed the claims entirely, calling the photographs AI-generated fakes and insisting any suggestion otherwise was fabricated. He threatened legal action against anyone spreading the story, framing the situation as an attack based on lies rather than verified facts. Ivanka stood beside him, composed yet clearly affected. Her confident stance at the charity event now seemed fragile, overshadowed by a story that had grown far beyond her initial criticism of Obama. The confrontation she had started was no longer political. It had become personal, raising questions about family secrets and hidden truths. Despite denials from the Trump family, the damage was already done. Whispers circulated nationwide. People questioned why the photographs existed, why they had not surfaced earlier, and how Obama had obtained such detailed, credible evidence. Each new detail fueled speculation, turning curiosity into doubt and unease. The timing of the photographs added to the intrigue. Taken nearly 20 years earlier, their sudden emergence made them impossible to ignore. For many, it wasn't just the images themselves but the story they suggested, a hidden family secret that had quietly shaped the public narrative for years. The alleged arrangement for Melania to claim the pregnancy as her own raised questions about motives, loyalty, and image management. People began to wonder how much of the family's public presentation had been controlled and what else might remain hidden. Even outside political circles, the story became widely discussed. Families, friends, and colleagues speculated on the private decisions made behind closed doors. It was no longer just about policy or leadership. It had become a story about trust, secrecy, and public image. Obama, meanwhile, did not escalate the situation with anger or accusations. He remained calm and measured, knowing the impact of his revelation would unfold gradually. His approach contrasted sharply with the Trump family's public denials. By presenting verified information and seeking accountability rather than attacking, he drew attention while leaving space for reflection. The result was a subtle but significant shift in the narrative. Inside the Trump family, tension was high. Advisors worked tirelessly to control the story, carefully crafting talking points and managing public appearances. Every statement was scrutinized. Every word weighed for impact. Ivanka faced a particularly difficult position. Her earlier confidence at the charity event now seemed like a liability. The confrontation meant to assert influence had placed her at the center of a story she could not control. Meanwhile, the public remained captivated. Questions about the photographs and their authenticity spread quickly. The possibility that a major family secret had been hidden for decades fascinated people, prompting even longtime supporters to question what else might be concealed and what consequences might follow. As days passed, tension intensified. Every public appearance by Donald or Ivanka Trump was analyzed for signs of weakness. Every statement from Obama's team was studied for hints of additional evidence. The situation became a national conversation, blending politics, family dynamics, and the power of truth in unexpected ways. Ivanka's earlier attack on Obama took on new meaning. What had seemed confident now appeared reckless. By targeting Obama personally, she had opened the door for a response extending far beyond political debate. Her words, intended to assert authority, had allowed Obama to shift focus onto verified facts, evidence, and accountability. The public followed closely. Analysts speculated on next steps, families debated the implications over dinner, and reporters sought new leads. Every new piece of information heightened tension, and each denial or statement from the Trump family fueled curiosity. Through it all, Obama maintained his measured approach, emphasizing a simple truth: verified facts cannot be easily dismissed. Truth eventually emerges, no matter who tries to conceal it. His calm confidence contrasted sharply with the Trump family's defensive posture, showing that reasoned communication often carries more weight than impulsive rebuttals. By the end of this chapter, the story had shifted dramatically. What began as Ivanka Trump's bold personal attack had grown into a nationwide discussion about family secrets, public image, and accountability. The photographs, their verification, and Obama's measured handling combined to create a moment of intense scrutiny and lasting impact. Ivanka's attempt to challenge Obama had unexpectedly highlighted his calm reasoning and careful verification. The tension remained, and the public continued to watch closely. Questions multiplied, implications deepened, and the narrative shifted in ways no one had anticipated at the charity event. In trying to unsettle Obama, Ivanka had triggered a chain of events that left her family on the defensive and the nation captivated, questioning the truth and awaiting its unfolding. What started as a personal confrontation had become a saga touching family, politics, and public trust. Ivanka's words set off consequences unfolding on a national stage. In the days following the Trump family's public denials, questions continued to rise. Reporters and the public were captivated by photographs verified by forensic experts showing Ivanka Trump pregnant in 2005. Allegations that Melania Trump was asked to publicly claim the pregnancy added complexity, prompting questions about secrecy, loyalty, and public image. Every detail was being examined. Every statement, denial, and public appearance was scrutinized for inconsistencies or hints of truth. The Trump family worked extensively behind the scenes to manage the narrative. Advisors drafted statements, coaches prepared speeches, and public appearances were carefully coordinated. Ivanka, who had confidently confronted Barack Obama in the past, now faced the consequences of that decision. What had seemed like a bold assertion of influence instead placed her at the center of a storm she could not control. Each day brought renewed scrutiny, and the pressure of public attention weighed heavily on her and her family. Meanwhile, Barack Obama took a calm, deliberate approach. He avoided escalation and did not respond with anger or sensationalism. Instead, he allowed verified information to speak for itself, emphasizing accountability and transparency. His repeated reminder that the truth eventually comes out, regardless of attempts to conceal it, became a subtle but powerful refrain, highlighting the contrast between measured reasoning and impulsive defense. Public fascination with the story grew daily. Conversations across the country shifted, as families, friends, and co-workers debated the implications, wondering about the hidden narratives behind carefully crafted public images. Analysts examined the situation from political, personal, and social perspectives. People who once focused mainly on policy found themselves drawn into a story blending personal secrecy with public consequences. Even political circles felt the ripple effects. Opponents of the Trump administration used the revelation to question transparency and honesty, while allies worked to defend the family's credibility. Every speech, statement, and media appearance became a potential flashpoint capable of influencing public perception. The nation watched closely, waiting for the next development. Ivanka's initial confrontation grew increasingly significant. Her attack on Obama, meant to assert influence, had inadvertently created an opportunity for him to demonstrate calm authority and careful reasoning. Her bold words opened a door, and Obama's measured response shifted the narrative. It served as a reminder that confident, impulsive actions can have unintended consequences. For the Trump family, stakes were high. Every denial or explanation required careful consideration, and every public appearance carried potential risk. Ivanka's reputation, her public image, and her family's credibility were under intense scrutiny. The questions raised were not just about past actions, they touched on trust, transparency, and accountability. The pressure highlighted the unforeseen consequences of a bold personal attack. Across the country, The story became a topic of fascination. Citizens discussed it at work, at school, and at home. Analysts debated its potential impact on public opinion, upcoming elections, and historical perception. The mix of verified evidence, family secrecy, and measured response created a moment of national attention, blending personal and political narratives in a way that captured public interest. Despite uncertainty, one fact was clear: the confrontation backfired. Ivanka's attempt to unsettle Obama and assert dominance instead exposed her family to intense scrutiny and reinforced the former president's authority in the public eye. Her bold attack unintentionally underscored the power of calm, deliberate reasoning and the importance of verified information. It was a lesson in how impulsive actions can have far-reaching consequences. Tension continued to build. As new questions emerged, reporters pursued answers while the Trump family worked to control the narrative. Yet the story had gained momentum. Public curiosity, combined with undeniable evidence, created a situation that could not be easily contained. Every family statement, appearance, and media discussion added layers to the unfolding narrative. Throughout, Obama's measured approach stood in stark contrast. While the Trump family navigated defensive statements and public pressure, he relied on calm reasoning, verified information, and a focus on transparency. His handling of the situation demonstrated how careful communication and patience can transform a confrontation into a display of authority and clarity. As the story reached its current stage, the nation faced a complex mix of questions, tension, and fascination. Ivanka's confrontation had triggered events no one could have predicted. The combination of a personal attack, verified evidence, and measured response created a narrative that blended personal and political elements in a way that captivated the public and left the Trump family struggling to maintain control. While the final truth remains uncertain, one outcome is undeniable. Ivanka's attempt to challenge Barack Obama backfired. It subjected her family to scrutiny, emphasized accountability, and elevated Obama's calm, reasoned approach in the eyes of the public. The story is far from over, but the lesson is clear. Words carry power, and how they are used can produce consequences beyond expectations. Ultimately, the events surrounding the confrontation, verified photographs, and public statements became about more than politics. They highlighted trust, transparency, and the impact of bold actions in a world where information cannot be fully hidden. Ivanka's confrontation set off a chain of events that will be remembered, studied, and debated for years. Tension persists, questions remain, and the public continues to watch closely, knowing the next revelation could arrive at any moment.